Hello there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fantasy for the Ages, the show where father and son sit down and talk about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdiness we enjoy talking about. Today, it's just Jim here with you again. Zach is off doing other things, living the high life, but I'm bringing an episode to you today to talk about something interesting, important, sometimes a real struggle, trying to decide whether or not to read that book. More about that in just a moment. Little bit of business. I just want to encourage you to like the episode, please. That's how we get the word out there on YouTube, and it shares our episodes with people who are looking for content like this. So you really do us a solid when you click that like button. And if you're not already a subscriber, take a look at the other things here on our YouTube channel. I think you'll find stuff that you'll enjoy if you like fantasy and science fiction, both books and media, and occasional weird things like Stephen King and zombies and such. Your subscription would be really valued, so go ahead and subscribe as well. That would be fantastic. Finally, look down in the show notes with all the ways you can interact with us: Discord, social media, most significantly Patreon. You could join the group of people who support us financially each month for just as little as $1 a month. You get some extra benefits that come your way. Thank you to all of you who are Patreon supporters. So let's get into content here. What are we talking about? In short, I'm bringing to you today 6 suggestions for when you're considering whether or not to read a particular book. This is how you can decide, should I or shouldn't I? Because really, life is too short to waste time on the wrong content. This is a serious matter. You only have one chance to make the right decision. Open it or close it. Listen to it or not. So here I'm going to try to help you today. My first suggestion for how to help decide about that book that you've seen, you've picked up, and you just, is this one worth my time? Is, well, I'm in the hobby business of recommending books. I read things, I tell you what I think. So does my son Zach. Accordingly, the first tip I've got to give you is check with us. Have we made content on the book? You can do a search of YouTube for book titles, and if we've done an episode on it, it's going to pop up for you. Take a look at that episode. What did we have to say? Did we give you vibes about the book that mesh with your preferences in literature? Of course, we are just one of hundreds of booktube channels out there, so if we haven't covered it, and there's a lot of books to cover, so we might not have yet, look around. The Fantasy Files, Mike's Book Reviews, The Legendarium. The list goes on and on and on of people out there talking about books, particularly fantasy, sci-fi, horror, all sorts of speculative fiction. So do take a look around, and I'm sure you'll find somebody talking about the book. There's a pretty good chance they're going to give their opinion. And if you're careful about it, you can find the ones that don't spoil the books, but do like we often do, spoiler light. But again, definitely start with Zach and I. Yes, it's a shameful, gratuitous plug, but we think rather highly of our own opinions, and we think we can help you. Number 2, my second suggestion is to know your genre profile. Think about all the books you've read over time. You'll likely have some general preferences that become pretty clear: fantasy, science fiction, horror, romance, westerns, historical drama, mysteries, thrillers. There's so many different genres that are out there, and you've probably found some comfort spots. And of course, keep in mind, in all of these genres, there's subgenres. Consider fantasy, for example. We've got epic fantasy, urban fantasy, fantasy romance, grimdark, and more. As you consider this new book you've picked up, does it appear to fit into the same general genre category as other things you've enjoyed in the past? If so, there's a good shot it will be a winner for you. My third suggestion: know your authors. Most authors have a particular writing style that will carry through from book to book. and either it works for you or it doesn't. When they've written even different types of books, they've gone into different genres, their style will still usually be pretty similar. A good example is Jim Butcher. I enjoy his style of writing. Knowing that I had enjoyed his urban fantasy, The Dresden Files, I eagerly jumped into his epic fantasy series, The Codex Alera. I was pretty confident. I liked his writing, so that urban fantasy was good. This epic fantasy will probably work for me too. Guess what? Despite the context being different, totally different genre focus, the writing was still similar and I enjoyed it all the same. So, obviously, if you enjoy a particular author, you may enjoy other books by that author. But pay attention to the little blurbs and recommendations that you can sometimes find on the cover of a book or in little publicity and advertising for a book, because you may find an author that you like is putting his name and recommendation, a stamp of approval, on another book by an author you've never heard of. You might have, for example, this grimdark book that you've picked up and you're like, am I going to like this? I like grimdark, but I've never heard of this guy. But right on the cover is a recommendation by George R. Martin. Best new grimdark I've found. Or Joe Abercrombie. This stuff, if you like my books, this is going to kill. Authors are not in the pattern or habit of making recommendations that their own fans are going to hate. It's bad form for their own book sales. So if they've been willing to make a recommendation about someone else's writing and you like Joe Abercrombie or George R. Martin, then you can probably feel safe giving that book a try. So again, know your authors, even so that when they recommend someone you haven't heard of, you might know it's worth a shot. You may just enjoy the book. Number 4, know your personal level of adventurousness. Some books will never be a sure thing. There may not be much out there about a book yet, especially if it's brand new and the first by an author. An example that comes to mind is The Tragedy of Sedaine. We've got The Trials of Ashmount back in 2021, I think is when it first came out. And now Buzzard's Bowl, his second book, is out. So John Palladino is the author, and these are his first books ever. How do you know you'd like it? Well, you sometimes can't. When I first found John's book, The Trials of Ashmount, I'd never heard of him. I just kind of looked at the book and said, I might like this, and gave it a shot. It's possible I might have said, I can't finish this. It's not working for me. You have to think about when you try something by an author you've never heard of and haven't found any recommendations on, or even if you're stepping outside of a genre from what you're normally comfortable with because, ooh, this book looks interesting. Are you willing to take a risk knowing you might not enjoy it? Are you able to set a book aside 50 pages in, 100 pages in, DNFing it, or will that drive you crazy? If you can honestly say to yourself, this is just not working for me, I'm done, chuck the book out of the way, and you move on to something better, then you can take more risks. I actually struggle with stopping a book once I've gotten into it. I kind of want to see it through, see if it gets better. Even if it's like book 1 of a trilogy or a series, I'll at least want to finish the whole book before deciding I'm not going to continue this series. So I might take a chance on a book that's 300 pages. I'm not likely to just take a wild chance on a book that's 1,000 pages because I'm going to want to finish it. Again, how adventurous are you? Are you willing to take that chance? Are you willing to just shift mid-course? What's the cost going to be to you? If you are someone who really feels like you're a completionist too, you got to finish something once you try it, maybe you don't want to do a book that you can't find any information on. The book's not going away. Give it some time. Wait for those booktubers to find it, read it, do some reviews. Then you'll have a better idea of whether it's worth your time. All right, suggestion number 5. What do your friends think? Do you have bookish friends? Have you shared notes with others in the past and gotten some great recommendations from people that you've learned to trust their opinions? Spending time talking books with your friends and acquaintances can build up a cohort of people whose thoughts on books align fairly well with yours and that you can depend upon. They may not always read the same kinds of books, but they come to get what you like and will make wise, sensible recommendations for you. So I encourage you to cultivate such friendships, whether they're flesh friends that you can reach out and touch, or using that wonderful virtual world of the internet and building book connections across the globe. Do it through Twitter or any of the Twitter knockoffs now, since Twitter seems perhaps to be stumbling. Reddit, I think, is still a thing in the book community. Certainly Discord. Oh my goodness, you can find so many Discord servers connected to just sharing the love of books. Make some friends that way and get some dependable recommendations. That happens for me all the time on our Discord server where there's a channel just to talk about what you're reading. Suggestion number 6. This is my final one. Trust your gut, man. Your instincts are valid. When you consider a book, you don't have to question yourself. You like what you like, and it doesn't really matter what others think sometimes. I don't care how much gold Brandon Sanderson creates, the Midas touch and all. If it feels more like pewter to you, then it's just pewter. Brandon Sanderson may not be all that you're looking for. And if you've decided Mark Tufo is the most brilliant author in existence, read all his stuff. Forget about the things others are talking about. Mark Tufo will appreciate it, and you'll have a heck of a good time. Don't rely exclusively on the opinions of others, is what I'm saying. Trust your own likes and dislikes. Continue to go with what you know is going to work for you. And if you get sufficiently in tune with your own feelings on books, maybe we'll end up seeing you on BookTube as well someday. Join the party, make some content, become an expert, and tell others what they might like or dislike. So there you go. 6 suggestions that you might give a try. Ways to guide you towards the best books to try, and especially when you pick up that one, should I or shouldn't I? Follow the guide, and I think you may have better luck in determining what's worth your time. If you have additional suggestions that you might share with people, I'd love to hear about it. So again, put them down in the comments here, or come tell us on our Discord server or social media. Share your wisdom. You may have some great ideas that just didn't come out of my mouth right now. And here's another avenue to help other people be a little smarter with books. Let me go ahead and show our outro now. This is a reminder again of what I just said, all those ways that you can connect with us. Sure would enjoy seeing you talking to us on our Discord server and sharing what you've learned about books. In fact, I covet your book recommendations. A lot of the books on my very, very long TBR have come from some of our listeners and viewers who jump on the Discord and tell us what they're reading. And my life has been richer because of it. If you're one of those people, thank you very much, and keep it going, and especially our Patreon. Really help my time be far better than it would be otherwise. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.